Alright, we are back with a new video, and today we'll be updating the power rankings for Australian Survivor, Blood versus Water, and this will actually be the final update to the power rankings before the end of the season, and with there only being 5 people left in the game, I feel like this is going to be a very straightforward power rankings in my personal opinion. I don't expect it to be too long at all, but let's not waste any more time, let's jump right in. So at number 7, we have one of the boots from this week, we have David. And it's not too surprising to see David go out in this spot for him to suddenly be seen as this big threat. We hear Mark talking about how David would be anyone in a jury vote, which came completely out of left field and to me really set up his boot pretty well. And again, I feel like David ultimately was a goner. I feel like there wasn't really any other option. Mind you, I thought it was crazy that he ended up going home over Jordy despite Jordy not having immunity, but I guess that just speaks to how people perceive David out there. And overall, I feel like David played a pretty rocky game. He obviously had a very disastrous start where he literally blew up his game at his first tribal and would have gone home if he didn't have an idol handed to him through the first reward. And I feel like through a lot of the rest of the game, he was just kind of a floater. Mind you, I feel like there is some credit you can give him in the post merge, like him getting into that alliance with Josh and Chrissy. I feel like that was something he was technically in the majority, although I felt like he wasn't super integral to the majority, despite having Josh and Chrissy on his side. And again, I didn't feel like he had much confidence in getting to the end of the game. I feel like the fact that people saw him as a threat is at least worth mentioning. So at the end of the day, I feel like David didn't play that great of a game. However, I feel like there are definitely some merits to it that really became apparent as it went on. So because of that, I'm here at number 7. Now we're moving on to number 6, and we have the other boot from this week. We have Jordy. And like David, it's not too surprising Jordy went out here. Mind you, I thought that he would have gone out the first round, especially after he failed to win immunity, but he was able to hang on one more round, be able to create the split vote plan to get Mark to play one of his idols and get David out of the game, who supposedly is a big threat, but but obviously once he was unable to win immunity again, he was voted out unanimously. And overall, I feel like Jordy played a pretty good game for the most part, where he was in the majority for a lot of the pre-merge. He was seen as pretty good socially, did a very good job of building connections with people. At the merge, he was a part of that couple's alliance with him and Jesse, but obviously they got flipped on at the second round. And from that point on, that really damaged his game to where he really tried to lead the charge against Sam and Mark, but was unsuccessful in getting them out. He is voted out and sent to purgatory, but was obviously able to get back in the game there. And while KJ is technically the one who plays the advantage that allows the Purgatory 3 to survive that first round, I feel like it was very good on Jordy's end that he was able to get those 3 people to be very loyal to him, to where despite him being this massive threat, we see KJ and shael want to keep him around for those couple rounds and really flip the power structure, taking out Sam in the process. But at the end of the day, he was just such a massive threat to win the game. I feel like he probably beats anyone if he gets to the end, possibly Mark, but I feel like definitely everyone else, he is for sure winning that jury vote. So it makes sense why he got voted out here once he didn't have immunity. And I guess the fact that he was able to survive a couple of rounds without it is somewhat impressive on his end, but it's not too surprising that he was targeted as much as he was. So because of that, he's here at number 6. And with that, we are now moving to the 5 people still in the game. As usual, I'll be ranking them based on how likely it is that they'll win the game from this point. And to be honest, I'm probably not going to go in as much detail as usual, as one, if you've been following the series, I feel like it's a pretty foregone conclusion at this point over who has a shot at winning and who doesn't. But also, I am planning to release a video tomorrow that talks more specifically about different jury scenarios and final tribal configurations, so stay tuned for that. But I will be talking briefly about my thoughts on each of these people going into the finale week. But at number 5, we have the person who I think is the least likely to win. We have shael. And to me, shael, again, has been getting a very minimal edit up to this point. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of Flick from Brains vs. Brawn, where she did get some positivity early on, but then just completely disappeared. Mind you, I feel like shael's been more invisible than Flick from last season, but it has ultimately led me with this impression that shael will probably not get to the end. I feel like of the people here, shael's the one I had the least confidence in actually getting to the end. And even if she does, I don't really see how she wins a jury vote. We literally saw in the most recent Jury Villa video that Jesse called shael, Chrissy, and KJ the 3 goats, which to me probably doesn't bode well for any of their chances if they get to the end. And I feel like Shael is the least likely to actually garner any respect from the jury at the end of the day. So because of that, I have her here at number 5. Now we're moving on to number 4. And again, we're sticking with the people who Jesse referred to as GOATs. So we have Chrissy. And Chrissy is somewhat similar to Shael in that she sort of disappeared in the edit. Mind you, she got a bit more content this week with her talking about how far she's made it, which to me only reinforces the fact that this has been a journey edit for her more so than a winner edit. I feel like Chrissy has a bit of a better shot of getting to the end than Shael is. However, I am not confident at all in her jury chances. I feel like it's going to be hard for her to really garner any jury votes at the end, which makes it hard for me to put her too much higher on the list. To me, she just comes off as largely a follower for a lot of the game. She doesn't really have any moves she can attribute to herself. And I feel like even if she gets to the end against all three of the girls, I feel like it's very unlikely that she'll impress them with her resume. So because of that, I have her here at number 4. Now we're moving on to number 3, and we have the other of the quote-unquote 3 GOATs, but the one I feel like I had the most confidence in actually garnering some respect from the jury, and here we have KJ. Now, I think the big thing going against KJ is the fact that she was voted out and had to come back into the game. I feel like that alone is something that's going to really harm her jury chances at the end. Plus the fact that she and the other people we just mentioned do not have loved ones on the jury, whereas the top 2 people we'll be talking about do. However, I feel like KJ probably has the best shot of these 3 that who do win a jury vote. I feel like if it's KJ, Chrissy, and Shael at the final 3, that KJ would most likely win that jury vote. I'll explain that more in tomorrow's video. I feel like KJ also seems to be the most game sense of the 3, where she is a massive fan of the show. She seems like the most strategic of the 3. She does have a move on her resume with her pulling off the advantage. Mind you, she had to get that for the auction, but she's still the one who technically made that move and chose which people went back. So she was effective in that. And I also feel like she's the most likely to garner respect from people like Jordy, or Mark even, people that see her as this more strategic figure and people that they wanted to keep around. But it's the fact that the top 2 people we'll be talking about just have a lot more allies on the jury, plus the fact that she was voted out and had to come back in the game. I feel like that alone is going to be such a difficult thing for her to overcome. So because of that, I have KJ here at number 3. And now we're moving on to number 2. And to me, these are the clear favorites coming into any given final 3 combination. I feel like any of these 2 would get a significant amount of jury votes if they were to get to the end, even if they both got into there. However, at number 2, we have someone who I think could win a jury vote, but given their edit will probably not get there. And here we have Josh. And I feel very good about Josh. Again, I'll explain it in tomorrow's video, but I feel like Josh has easily played the second best game of the season. And it's pretty clear that a lot of people respect him to where if he does get to the end, he would get jury votes. First off, there's people like his loved one, Jordan, who would definitely vote for him. But I also feel like he has a lot of potential to get jury votes from the Jesse and Jordy side of things. Really anyone that's anti-Mark and Sam would probably go for him. I also feel like if he gets to the end against anyone besides Mark, he would easily win a jury vote. So I feel like that alone is pretty impressive. Plus, I feel like the edit has been propping him up as a somewhat major character, not to the extent of Jordy, but still a pretty big character. However, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets cut before the end. Now, I don't think it's a guarantee that it gets voted out before the end. However, considering the number 1 person is the clear favorite to win, I wouldn't be surprised if Mark does cut Josh so that he can get to the end and get the easy win, seeing Josh as his big threat. But it's not a guarantee either, as he has been willing to work with Josh in the past. And, who knows what could happen. Plus, Josh has won the last couple of immunities. That's also something that can help him out. So I feel like there are definitely avenues for Josh to get to the end. And if he does get to the end in any scenario, I think he would have a shot. And if he gets to the end against Mark, anyone other than Mark, then he definitely wins. It's just a matter of if he can get there. Personally, I don't think he will, but it's the fact that he has played the second best game and has an edit to somewhat justify a win that has him here at number 2. And now at number Mark, the Mark who I think is the most likely to win Australian Survivor Blood versus Water is Mark. And again, I know it's a running joke at this point, but I really do believe Mark is winning this season by a lot, if you ask me. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I think if he does get to final tribal against Josh, then I think he would have some competition. However, as I will explain in tomorrow's video, I feel like Mark would still probably beat Josh in a final tribal. And even then, I feel like there's a good chance that Mark is able to cut Josh before the end. So I think there's that going for him. Now, I will admit that edit wise, like he does get the massive visibility spike. He has that big segment in the Sunday episode talking about losing Sam and how he's there for the end game stage of the game. Pretty key portion of his obvious winner edit right there. Now, I will admit, gameplay wise, it wasn't the best week for him, as it does seem like he is in a position to where he does need to win out. Obviously, in the first round, he did have to play his idol due to the split vote plan. They did decide to split the vote onto Mark, forcing him to play his idol. Not too surprising there. But then in Monday's episode, despite not getting any votes, he pretty much wastes his idol, second idol, to get rid of Jordy there. And obviously, that's not ideal. Now, it's not too bad at the end of the day because it is the final five he'd be going into, which would be the last round he could play anyway. But even so, like the fact that he could have had the idol for that last round going into the final five, but then wasted is a pretty bad sign at the end of the day, pretty much ensuring that he needs to win that final five and final four challenges to get to the end. But considering this is Australian Survivor and it has not given me any reason to think anyone other than Mark is going to win, I feel like Mark will probably win those last two immunity challenges. Now, it's a question of whether he can still get the votes on his side to where he can have the majority at the end of the day. I think that's a big question mark there, but I have no doubt he's going to get to the end. I mean, yes, it's not ideal they had to play his idol there and waste his second one. I still think he can win two immunity challenges even against Josh to get to the end. And I feel like even if he doesn't, he might find a way somehow to still get to the end. There's just no way I can see Mark losing. And if they pull a fast one on me, if they pull a fast one on everyone that has said Mark is the clear winner, then I will have to give this show some credit for surprising us to some extent. But considering this is Australian Survivor, considering this show has done literally nothing to sway my belief that Mark would win, I feel like Mark is the person most likely to win Australian Survivor Blood versus Water. And there we go, that will do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. Now, as I alluded to earlier, I am planning to release another video tomorrow where I talk more specifically about the different jury scenarios and how I think those votes might shake out. Stay tuned for that. Once the season ends, I plan to do a review, give my personal thoughts on the season, and of course, I plan to give a player ranking afterwards where I talk about each of their games, taking away all the edit or at least as much edit as I can. Stay tuned for that. I'm obviously covering other shows as well, like Big Brother Canada and Survivor 42. Stay tuned for videos on that. But for now, that is the video. See ya.